It is no secret that Star Wars The Last Jedi has greatly divided fans. There exist both people on each end of the spectrum, some that love and some that hate it. I, myself, was vastly underwhelmed by the decisions that were made in the film's writing and was concerned how this would affect the franchise moving forward. My concerns are also shared by many people who are outright refusing to watch Episode 9. However, I believe there might be a way to restore the franchise's glory. This fan-written story may never come to fruition, however, I hope this can bring all Star Wars fans together as I truly believe this can save the franchise. This is how I would write Star Wars Episode 9. Before I begin, I would like to throw in a couple of disclaimers. I will not be doing line for line for the entire movie, otherwise this video would probably be over 3 hours long. Instead, I will be mostly summarizing the events that take place throughout each scene and including dialogue that I feel is key to telling the story. In addition, this story takes into accordance all of the events that have taken place in the past 8 Star Wars movies. Therefore, everything that happened in The Last Jedi did in fact happen, and hopefully, this story will bring a satisfying conclusion to the Skywalker saga. Without further ado, let's begin. As always, the opening crawl is displayed. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars. Episode 9. From the Darkness. Before I continue, I would like to explain why I chose this title. From the Darkness represents events that take place in this story, of course. However, it also ties into the previous titles of episodes 7 and 8. If you combine all of the titles, you get The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, From the Darkness. This title sentence directly ties into the events that happened in this story as well. Moving on, as written in the opening crawl, it plays with the following text. A dark presence has engulfed the galaxy. Although Supreme Leader Snoke has been destroyed, Kylo Ren and his Knights of Ren overtake systems without end. The Resistance, struggling to find allies to maintain peace, find themselves outmatched. All hope seems lost since the death of Luke Skywalker. After analyzing the sacred Jedi texts, Rey ventures into the Valley of the Jedi, believing there might be a way to contact her former Jedi Master. The camera pans downward and we see a small fighter with Resistance logos coming out of hyperspace. The camera follows the fighter as it flies towards a barren planet right next to a bright nexus. This planet is known as Ruusan, which is home to the Valley of the Jedi. This planet also contains the site of a great battle between the Jedi and the Sith. The fighter lands on the planet and we see a person get out of the ship. They remove their hood and it is revealed to be Rey. She will be wearing robes similar to that of a Jedi Knight. She looks around the area with a nervous expression on her face. She notices bright energy beams bursting out of the ground into the sky in several areas. She begins to explore the planet, taking in the incredible sights. She eventually hears a faint voice calling her. She believes this may be Luke trying to contact her. Master Skywalker? She asks. Again, the voice is heard calling Rey's name. Rey moves forward towards the direction where the voice came from. As she gets closer, she hears several more voices speak around her. Many of these voices sound familiar to the audience, such as Jedi Knights and Masters that were alive during the prequel era, and other voices which have not been heard before. Eventually, Rey looks beyond into a mist and it slowly fades away. From this, a ghost with their back turned to Rey appears. She cannot see who it is as they have their hood on. She calls out to this ghost, "Master Skywalker?" believing this figure to be him. Suddenly, the ghost responds, "It's good to see you, Rey. What took you so long?" Rey has a confused expression on her face as she does not recognize the ghost's voice. She asks, "You're not Luke Skywalker. Who are you?" After a brief moment, the ghost turns around and looks at Rey. They remove their hood, and Rey still has a confused expression as she does not recognize this person. The camera pans upward from the ghost's feet to their head, and it is revealed to be Anakin Skywalker. He responds, "You must have me confused with my son. My name is Anakin Skywalker." Rey is shown with a shocked face. Anakin then tells her, "There is much we need to discuss." The scene changes to show another Nexus in space. This time, the Nexus is colored in red. From this, we see a small fighter come out of hyperspace. This fighter appears to be similar to Darth Maul's interceptor ship. As the camera follows the ship down to the surface, we see the planet is Korriban. This planet was once the homeworld of the Sith species. Because of this, a powerful dark side power is contained there. As the fighter lands, a figure jumps out wearing dark robes we have yet to see before. The camera pans up to show Kylo Ren's face. He opens a compartment within his ship and takes out a new looking helmet, mainly to cover the scars on his face which have gotten exceedingly worse. He puts on the new mask and begins exploring the area. He finds his way to an ancient Sith tomb, and we hear a voice calling his name. As he enters the tomb, he notices it is filled with traps such as spike walls and fire pits. Kylo easily makes his way around these traps into the center of the tomb. As the voice grows louder, he finds himself in a large room with sarcophagi surrounding the room. In the middle is a pedestal with a lightsaber that has not been shown before. Kylo approaches this lightsaber, and he again hears the voice, begging him to take it. As he does, he screams in agony, and several flashes of random events are shown, many of which are horrific. We see people being slaughtered, planets being destroyed, and many more. Kylo also receives visions of Anakin during his early years, and is shown how he came to be Vader. This overwhelms Kylo, and he runs out of the temple. As he does, the sarcophagi in the room shatter. Once he makes his way outside, Kylo catches his breath. He then sees several Force ghosts appear before him. Some of these ghosts the viewer is familiar with, such as Darth Maul, Darth Tyrannus, and Darth Sidious. However, Kylo notices Vader is nowhere to be found. "Where is he?" Kylo asks. None of the ghosts answer. "Where is he?" Kylo yells, much more furiously this time. The ghosts begin to laugh at him, and Kylo looks confused and becomes more angry. The ghost of Darth Sidious approaches Kylo and explains to him how Vader betrayed the Sith Order and ultimately ruined his plans of controlling the galaxy forever. This infuriates Kylo as he idolized him for his true dark nature. Eventually, Kylo asks where the ghost of Snoke is as he does not see him. The Sith ghosts laugh once again and explain that Kylo has unknowingly set forth a chain of events that is exactly what Snoke has intended. This confuses Kylo, and they tell him that the Snoke he knew was merely hiding behind who he really was, and planned to be killed all along in order to return even more powerful than before. This confuses Kylo, and he asks them again to explain. They explain to Kylo that Snoke has been known as many different identities and has existed for thousands of years. They tell him that Snoke is seemingly unkillable, as every time he leaves the physical world, he always returns. Kylo asks them what they meant by multiple identities, and they explain to him that Snoke is the most powerful Sith that has ever existed. His true name is Darth Plagueis. The scene changes to show a resistance fleet in space with a star nearby. A freighter docks into one of the hangars on the largest ship. After it docks, We see Finn, Poe, and Rose exit it. We can tell a few years have passed as Poe and Finn have grown beards and Rose's hair is much longer. They meet up with Chewbacca, C-3PO, and R2-D2. The crew discuss how the war has been faring against the First Order since their escape on Crate. Leia meets up with the crew, and she explains how the First Order continuously grows more powerful. She says she is confused by this, as the First Order appears to have unlimited resources, even though the Starkiller base was destroyed. Leia also mentions how she senses a great darkness, but cannot pinpoint from where. Suddenly, a fleet of First Order ships come out of hyperspace and begin to attack the Resistance fleet. Leia is shocked how they found them after all this time. A battle out in space ensues, however, the Resistance is unable to hold the enemy back. Several fighters break through and begin to dock inside the ship. Chewbacca takes C-3PO and R2 onto the Millennium Falcon, and they join the space battle. Poe orders BB-8 to start the engines on his new modified fighter, a Z-Wing. As First Order troops attack the ship, Finn runs into an armory room. He puts on large armor and picks up a chain gun. Rose runs back to the freighter and starts to prep it for takeoff. We see Finn and Poe run to the hangar where the freighter is docked. However, First Order soldiers attack them. Finn is able to hold them back with his chain gun. However, during the firefight, the freighter is badly damaged. Rose says the ship is no longer flyable. Poe radios Chewbacca and asks him to pick them up. However, Chewbacca mentions he is being pursued by enemies, so it will take time. Afterward, we see an enemy ship dock into the hangar. From this, we see 3 Knights of Ren exit the ship: the Heavy, the Armory, and the Rogue. They each have their own unique lightsaber weapons, including a bow and arrow lightsaber and a staff lightsaber. They begin to attack members of the Resistance and easily take out those in their path. Finn, Poe, and the others run from them and make their way to a different hangar. Poe sees his Z-Wing is ready, so he gets into his ship and flies out. The 3 Knights of Ren find them in the hangar and begin to attack. At the last moment, the Millennium Falcon lands in the hangar and rescues the crew. The Falcon flies back out into space, and the Knights of Ren go back into their ship. As the crew flies away, we see the Resistance fleet being completely destroyed. During this, Leia radios the crew and mentions how she stayed behind to ensure everyone could escape safely. The crew begs her to leave the ship, but she is adamant she wants to save as many people as possible. She then gives a heartfelt speech about hope, and as soon as her speech is finished, the ship is destroyed. Afterwards, a cavalry of First Order ships begin to pursue the Millennium Falcon and other small Resistance ships. Poe sees the nearby star and advises everyone to follow him as he has an idea. Everyone seems to think this idea is crazy, as their ships will be incinerated in moments due to the extreme heat. However, he tells them to set their shields at maximum power and they might just survive long enough to escape. At least until their hyperspace engines are ready. They fly towards the star and we see a chase occur near the surface of the star. Ships from both sides get decimated from fire loops and explosions that burst from the star's surface. After a brief chase, the hyperspace engines are ready and the crew barely escapes. The scene changes back to Rey on Ruban. Rey is bewildered from seeing Anakin, as from the story she has heard during his reign as Darth Vader were nothing but horrific. Anakin explains how he deeply regrets his decisions as Vader, and he would have been completely lost if not for his son. Rey then asks, "Where is Luke Skywalker now?" The screen changes to show a close-up of Luke's face with his eyes closed. He opens them, and he sees a mostly empty void with energy surges around him. Luke realizes this is the afterlife, or the netherworld of the Force. He begins to explore the void, when suddenly, he sees Obi-Wan and Yoda appear before him. Luke greets them, and after a brief talk, he asks where his father is. They tell him that Anakin is currently communicating with Rey about who she really is. Luke is confused by this, and asks what they mean. This is answered by cutting back to Force Ghost Anakin and Rey. Anakin asks Rey if she knows who her parents really are. Rey says her parents are no one, they were just scavengers that sold her for drinking money. Anakin laughs and says, "And who is the one that told you that? Kylo Ren?" Rey is silent. Anakin tells Rey that technically speaking, yes, Her parents are no one. However, not in the way she thinks. Anakin asks Rey if she remembers the vision she had when she first touched his lightsaber. Rey says yes, and remembers it well, but has never been able to interpret it. Anakin explains to Rey that he was the chosen one, and how he too never really knew his father. However, he did have a biological mother. Anakin explains to Rey after several years of researching his heritage while in the afterlife, he discovered that he was created by the Force itself. He believed that was all there was to it. However, he discovered a much more terrifying truth. Anakin was created by a Dark Lord of the Sith known as Darth Plagueis, and after he died, a strange thing happened in the netherworld of the Force. Rather than the Force balancing out as intended, the Force was still in balance due to the nature of Snoke's dark side energy. Because of this, another Force being was created. Anakin explains to Rey that when he died, Rey was born. Therefore, Rey is the reincarnation of Anakin. He further explains that she was also created by Plagueis, which is why they are connected in the Force. He also tells her that while she may not have a real father, her biological mother is Qi'ra. And Qi'ra left her on Jakku because Qi'ra was involved with very dangerous people, and if they found out about her daughter, they would surely kill her. Shortly after Qi'ra left Rey on Jakku, Qi'ra was discovered by many dangerous people and they ended up killing her due to her treachery. Fortunately, she never told them what planet she left Rey on. Rey is stunned by this news and at first begins to deny it. However, Anakin shows her more visions about his time as a Jedi, as Vader, and also visions of how Qi'ra left her on Jakku. He also shows her visions of Plagueis. Rey tells Anakin there's no need to worry about Plagueis because Kylo Ren killed him. Anakin then tells Rey that the main reason he needs to speak with her is because of this. He tells her that Plagueis is not truly dead, and he has come back to life several times before. If he is brought back to life once again, he will become more powerful than ever and maybe unstoppable. The scene changes back to Luke in the netherworld of the Force. Obi-Wan and Yoda explain to Luke about Plagueis and how he was really Snoke. They also express their disappointment in Luke and how he allowed himself to be corrupted by him. Luke is confused by this and asks what they mean. They explain to Luke that the reason he made many of the choices he did, such as isolating himself on Ahch-To and removing himself from the Force, and his overall behavior during his time there, was because Plagueis was corrupting his mind. They also tell him Luke almost completely lost himself when Plagueis took over his mind to make him consider killing Ben Solo, which would seal Kylo's fate in turning to the dark side. Luke says this is preposterous as he would have sensed it. However, Obi-Wan and Yoda explain to Luke that Plagueis is so powerful that he was still able to corrupt his mind. After his Jedi Academy was destroyed and Plagueis temporarily left Luke's mind, Luke created a segment of a map where people could locate him and bring him back to the light. After Luke had created the map segment, his mind was completely corrupted by Plagueis. Obi-Wan and Yoda then explained to Luke how this is the same way Ben Solo's mind was corrupted by Plagueis, which ultimately made Ben turn to the dark side and blindly follow Plagueis' command. Afterward, they explain how the dark side of the Force is currently overtaking the galaxy, as the Sith are planning to bring Plagueis back to life. Shortly after, Luke senses something. He then mentions Leia, quietly. The screen cuts to Anakin and Rey, and they feel it too. The screen then cuts to Kylo and Korriban, and he too senses it. Shots of each of them are shown with sad expressions. The scene then changes to show a large funeral taking place on Naboo. Finn, Poe, Rose, and the other Resistance members will be there as well. Leia's body is shown being placed next to Padme's grave. Lando Calrissian also appears, and he begins to make a speech about Leia. He mentions how it was requested in Leia's will that she be buried next to her biological mother. After Lando finishes his speech and the funeral is complete, Lando meets with the Resistance members. He tells them how Leia's death has caused outrage across the Republic, and several systems have agreed to join the Resistance in their fight against the First Order. He also mentions a central hub where most of the Republic leaders are meeting, and that it is imperative members of the Resistance join him. They agree, and they all head into a large ship and fly into hyperspace. The scene changes back to Kylo and Korriban. Kylo is furious with the Sith ghosts as he tells them that bringing Plagueis back to life would be disastrous for him, as Plagueis would surely kill him if he returns. The Sith ghosts tell him that even though Kylo killed Plagueis, his death was intentional, as his body was beginning to decay due to the sheer amount of dark side energy in his body. Therefore, Plagueis was meant to be killed, but Kylo killed him sooner than expected. Nevertheless, the Sith ghosts laugh and say how Plagueis may even thank Kylo for killing him when he returns. Kylo is still in denial of this idea, believing that making Sith Lords come back to life is completely impossible. The Sith ghosts tell Kylo that while they have not performed this ritual themselves before, Plagueis has indeed returned to life many times in the past. They also explain that the last time this ritual was performed was shortly after Darth Sidious had killed him. The Sith ghosts then begin to make their way up a tall mountain on the planet, and Kylo yells at them to wait. They ignore him, and they continue upward. Kylo then follows the ghosts towards the top of the mountain. After they reach the top, Kylo notices several ancient ruins and artifacts laying about. He also sees statues of ancient Sith Lords which are still standing upright. The Sith ghosts then appear in circular form around a large platform surrounded by Sith ruins and statues. They begin to speak in an ancient language that Kylo does not understand. Dark side energy begins to surge in the middle of the platform. The scene changes back to Rey and Anakin. Rey tells Anakin how the galaxy has been in fear since the First Order seems to conquer the galaxy with no hope of stopping them, and she needs help. She also questions how the First Order is so powerful despite their base being destroyed. Anakin explains to Rey that the reason the First Order appears to have unlimited resources is because Plagueis has corrupted the minds of not just his son Luke and grandson Ben Solo, but the minds of so many people across the galaxy. Plagueis has also corrupted the minds of those in the Republic, thus preventing them from assisting with the battle against the First Order. However, Plagueis' death has caused a temporary setback for him. If they act quickly, they can gather allies and fight back against them. Rey then asks Luke how she can possibly defeat a foe as powerful as Plagueis, in addition to Ben Solo and his Knights of Ren. Anakin tells Rey that his power flows through her, so she has the capability of becoming a powerful Jedi, perhaps even something greater. He also tells her to trust in the Force, and there will be balance if the Force wields it. Anakin then tells Rey he will help unlock her potential by training her. With Anakin's help, he guides her to a location on the planet which contained materials to build a new lightsaber. After Rey gathers the materials, she enters a cave which contains several different kyber crystals. Anakin then tells her to choose which crystal she wants. Without hesitation, Rey finds a yellow kyber crystal and inserts it into her lightsaber hilt. The yellow blade illuminates the cave. Anakin says she made an interesting choice, as only ancient Force users used yellow sabers, and they were on neither the light side nor the dark side. The path she chooses to walk on from henceforth will be her decision. He then begins to show her new fighting and Force techniques. The scene changes back to Luke in the netherworld of the Force. He says to Obi-Wan and Yoda how he believes he has failed the galaxy as he allowed himself to be corrupted by Plagueis, and now his sister has been killed. Yoda then tells Luke, "Hope, there still remains." Yoda then sees Leia appear in the netherworld of the Force with him. "Leia!" Luke shouts. They run to each other and hug. Luke apologizes to Leia for not being there for her, and she tells him it is not his fault. She also tells him she is happy she was able to save as many people as she did, and even more so that she is with her brother now. Yoda and Obi-Wan also greet her. They also explain to Leia that the reason her resistance fleet was destroyed was because the Knights of Ren were Force sensitive, and they were able to sense Leia's presence. Leia is heartbroken by this news, and says it is her fault that all of those people were killed. They tell her it is not, and that the fault lays on Darth Plagueis. They tell her about his immense power and his plan to return to life. Luke asks Yoda and Obi-Wan if Plagueis is able to return himself to life. Then surely there must be a way where one of them can. Obi-Wan tells Luke this is not their fight, but that it is Luke's, and he must finish what he started with Plagueis and Ben Solo. Yoda tells Luke there might be a way for him to return to life, however, the odds are slim. Luke tells him he'll do whatever it takes. Yoda tells Luke, "Very well, follow me, Skywalker." Luke then says his goodbyes to Leia and Obi-Wan. Luke follows Yoda to where it appears to be a portal. "Enter, you must," Yoda says. Luke asks what he will find. Yoda tells him in order to have a chance to return to life, he must prove himself worthy to the Force. However, a Jedi has never been able to fully prove themselves, not even Yoda. Yoda tells him how he must complete 3 trials, and the Force will then determine if he is worthy. Luke asks Yoda, "What if I fail?" Yoda tells Luke that if he fails, he will never have the chance to attempt the trials again for all of eternity. Luke then asks Yoda if he can help him get in contact with someone in the physical world. Yoda agrees, but he says he must do so quickly as the longer they wait, the greater the chance of Plagueis returning to life will happen. The screen changes to show Rey training with her new lightsaber. Rey asks Anakin how her technique is performing, however, she notices his Force Ghost is gone. She calls out to him, but he does not answer. However, Luke's Force Ghost appears before her. "Master Skywalker," Rey says excitingly. Luke greets her and extends his apologies for not being there. However, he tells her how Plagueis corrupted his mind, and also how Plagueis is planning to return to life. Rey tells him that she was aware of this as the Force Ghost of Anakin explained everything. "Father?" Luke says. "Where is he now?" Rey tells him that he vanished some time ago and is unsure. Afterwards, Rey explains to Luke how Anakin has been helping her train. However, she is worried it will not be enough. She tells Luke how she is frightened as she will need to somehow defeat the Knights of Ren, Ben Solo, and Plagueis. Luke tells her there is hope yet, as there may be a way he can return to life as well. Rey is surprised by this, and asks him how it will be possible. Luke tells her it will be very risky, and the chances of him pulling it off are unlikely, but he will try nonetheless. He then tells Rey to meet with the Resistance and tell them about Plagueis' plan to return to life. She understands and says she will leave at once. "Good luck, Rey, and may the Force be with you," Luke says. "May the Force be with you too, Master," Rey replies. Rey walks off towards the direction of her ship, and Luke returns to the netherworld of the Force. "Master Yoda, I'm ready," Luke says to Yoda. Yoda wishes him luck and tells him to always remember to trust in the Force. Luke then walks into the portal, and the portal vanishes. After he does, Yoda is shown with the concerned look on his face. He begins to hold his heart. Other Jedi Force ghosts appear before him, such as Obi-Wan, Anakin, Qui-Gon, and Leia. Yoda tells them, "Too late, we are." The scene changes back to Korriban. The Sith ghosts continue to chant in their ancient language, and dark energy in the center of the platform surges immensely. Dark clouds bring thunderstorms and lightning, and the ground begins to shake and crack. Statues crumble down and their ruins shake. Suddenly, red lightning strikes begin to surge in the center of the platform as well. The Sith ghosts chant louder and shout the words as the dark energy grows larger. Eventually, a bright light emerges and a powerful shockwave decimates the surrounding area, and Kylo is knocked back from the powerful force. Kylo comes to and brings himself up. His vision is a bit blurred, but after clearing it, he sees them at last. The camera pans slowly upward to reveal a tall figure wearing dark robes. The Sith ghosts surrounding him bow down. The camera pans up to the figure's back, and we see them extend their arm. Kylo steps back quickly as he believes he is going to get struck with a force attack. A small object buried in the ground is shown being quickly flown out of it. After a few moments, Kylo can hear an object in the far distance drawing closer. The object breaks through mountains and ruins and then flies into the figure's right hand. After they grasp it, it ignites. Kylo sees is a darksaber. The blade itself is black, and when ignited, it makes a unique but terrifying sound. Returned from the darkness at last, the figure says. They turn around to reveal themselves to Kylo. They remove their hood, and the camera shows their face to reveal them to be Darth Plagueis. Kylo notices the scars Snoke previously had were now healed, and he began to whimper as he sensed the powerful dark side energy coming from him. Plagueis looks at his darksaber and says, "The darksaber. This has destroyed hundreds of Jedi Masters and Sith Lords throughout the last several eons, and at my will, it shall conquer the galaxy." Kylo remains speechless, and Plagueis notices him. "Kylo Ren, the child that betrayed and struck me down." Plagueis moved towards Kylo, feeling terrified. Kylo ignites his crossguard saber. Plagueis then says to Kylo, "You will serve me, and be at my side as the galaxy falls beneath my feet. Should you refuse, I will bestow a fate worse than death onto you." Kylo says, I will serve, my master." Plagueis laughs at him, and tells him how he meant to be killed by him all along. He also mocks his power compared to his own, and to other Sith Lords he has encountered. Plagueis then tells Kylo he has a plan to restore all deceased Sith Lords, and together at his side, the light side of the Force will be depleted from the galaxy forever. Kylo asks him how this will be possible. Plagueis tells him that a powerful Sith artifact, called the Mass Shadow Generator, is located on the planet of Ambria. It will allow him to harness his dark side energy and connect with the energy of the Sith in the afterlife. However, he tells him it requires tremendous Force energy, and in order for it to be used in its fullest potential, he will take the artifact with him to the center of the galaxy, where a First Order station is located. Plagueis orders Kylo to gather all of the Knights of Ren, and as many First Order fleets as possible, as he can sense there are beings in the netherworld of the Force that are aware of his plans as well. Plagueis takes Kylo to an ancient ship that is buried underground, and he uses the Force to rise it. They get into the ship and fly off. The scene changes to show the Resistance coming out of hyperspace and flying towards a planet. Lando tells him this planet is Mandalore. He explains he has connections with Republic members here that can help them gather armies to fight against the First Order. Once they land, they are greeted by the Mandalorians. They escort the Resistance to a Capitol building, and they begin to discuss war tactics. The Republic leaders tell them that the First Order continues to conquer planets with no end in sight. Finn informs the Republic leaders about the Knights of Ren and Kylo, and how he believes if they eliminate them, their First Order should fall. The Republic leaders begin to contact allies and prepare them for a major battle. The scene changes back to Luke. He enters a realm which looks nothing like he's ever seen. It is beaming with plants, wildlife, and strange force energy. As Luke begins to explore the area, he sees a wisp of light fly towards him. "Skywalker," is said in an unknown voice. "Who is there?" Luke asks. The voice says, "Skywalker," again. "Where am I?" Luke asks. The wisp responds, "The real question is, are you worthy?" The wisp grows extremely bright, and its form changes to a Force priest. "You're late," the priest says. "Late? You've been waiting for me?" Luke asks. The priest tells Luke that they watch all who are strung with the Force in the universe. The priest then instructs Luke to follow them. While following the priest, Luke asks, "Tell me, what is this place?" The priest responds, "All that surrounds us is the foundation of life, the birthplace of what your science calls midichlorians, the foundation of what connects the living Force and the cosmic Force. When a living thing dies, all is removed. Life passes through the living Force into the cosmic Force and becomes one with it. One powers the other. One is removed by the other." Luke realizes this is a realm beyond the worlds he's lived in, as this is the comic Force itself. The priest leads Luke to a gate and tells him the first trial awaits, called the Trial of Passage. "What must I do?" Luke asks. "Trust in the Force," the priest responds. Luke then asks the priest what will happen if he completes the trials. The Force priest tells him, "We will provide you with knowledge for what you seek. Luke tells the Force Priest that he intends to return back to life as he needs to stop Darth Plagueis from destroying the galaxy. The Force Priest says they are aware of Plagueis, and it is because of his presence that the Force is imbalanced. They explain to him when Plagueis created Anakin, he was intended to balance out the Force, and almost did. However, Plagueis has found a way to prevent death, which creates the imbalance. To balance out the Force again, the Force Priest tells Luke that they are allowing one life to return to the living Force, so that the Force may be balanced out once again. However, he will need to prove himself worthy, as one must be able to defeat Plagueis, and cause the light side and the dark side to balance. Luke asks the priest how he can defeat Plagueis if he's able to be revived. The Force Priest tells him that Plagueis must be defeated in the center of the galaxy, where the energy of the Force is most present. Only then will his spirit devolve and never return. Fortunately, Plagueis' plan is to go to the center of the galaxy and use an ancient Sith artifact to bring all Sith Lords back to life. Finally, the priest tells Luke that should he complete the trials, he may be able to return to the physical realm, but only temporarily. Luke says he understands. The gates begin to open, and the priest turns back into a wisp and flies to the other side of the trial's path. Luke steps into the gate and notices several obstacles in his path, such as floating plateaus. He looks over and sees a beam of light that rises above the platforms. He hears a voice again. There are two paths. The light will propel you past the obstacles, or you face them yourself. The choice is yours. Luke walks over to the light platform, thinks for a moment, and then decides not to use it. He makes his way up the plateaus. When he finally reaches the top, he's out of breath as it has required a tremendous amount of Force energy to make his way upward. The priest reappears and tells him that he has successfully passed the first trial. They make their way to this next trial, which the priest calls Trial of Fear. This trial requires Luke to enter a dark cave and encounter enemies that he is unable to see. If a single one hits him, he fails the trial. Luke closes his eyes in a dark cave, and he uses the Force to sense the whereabouts. Luke force pushes the enemies back, and the cave collapses. The priest tells him the second trial is complete. Luke makes his way to the third and final trial, which the priest calls Trial of Acceptance. The priest informs Luke that no Force user has ever made it past this trial. All Luke can see is a portal. He enters it, and he sees himself back in his Jedi Academy before it was destroyed by Ben Solo. Young Jedi trainers run up to Luke and greet him, and ask him to train them. Luke also sees Leia, Han, and a young Ben Solo. They begin to tell him that everything is at peace, and they ask to stay with him. Luke whispers to himself, "No, this is all wrong. None of this is real." After denying this reality, the people he saw become monsters and begin yelling at him, such as it was his fault the Jedi Academy was destroyed, his fault Ben Solo turned, and other things. Luke begins to scream in agony, but then takes a deep breath. He stands up and says, "No, this is not my fault. However, I will do whatever it takes to make it right. There is still goodness in the galaxy, and I'm going to make sure it's never destroyed." The monsters then vanish, and Luke finds himself back in the cosmic force. The priest approaches him and says, "You are worthy." They raise their hand, and Luke is shown a vision of how to return to life. The priest tells him that 7 Jedi Masters in a circular position must extend their Force powers through Luke, and he can return to the realm of the living. The priest fades, and Luke is back on the netherworld of the Force. Yoda, Obi-Wan, Leia, and the others join him. They tell Luke how Plagueis has awakened, and is already on his path to destroy the galaxy. Luke then tells them he completed the trials, and found a way that he may be able to return. The next scene shows Plagueis in a command ship with Kylo Ren, who has gathered the Knights of Ren. They are flying with a fleet of First Order ships, and they see a fleet of Republic starships ahead of them that appear to be guarding the Ambria system. Plagueis orders them to attack. During the battle, a Republic fighter intercepts communication with Plagueis' ship, and he hears members of the First Order call Snoke by his name. The scene changes back to the Resistance on Mandalore. While discussing their war tactics, a scout runs into the meeting and informs the Republic leaders that an incoming ship is approaching, and they identify themselves as Rey. Finn tells them that Rey is a friend, so the Republic leaders allow her ship to land. The Resistance members greet Rey, and Finn and Rey hug each other. The Resistance members tell Rey about what happened earlier with their fleet and with Leia. Rey tells them that she knows, but she has more pressing matters to tell them. She explains to them how Snoke has really been Plagueis, and how he has been planning to return to life. After the Republic leaders and Resistance at first believed the idea of Snoke returning to life to be nonsense, a member of the Republic contacts them, and informs them that they swore they heard the First Order called the commander by the name Snoke, and who was leading a fleet of First Order ships. After hearing this news, the Republic believes Rey. Lando tells them that not all of their allies have been gathered yet, but they have enough to take a small system. Rey tells them that time is of the essence, so they will need to make do with what they can. Lando orders the allies they have to prepare for battle, and they begin to gather their weapons and prep their starships. Rey catches up with Finn, Poe, and Rose, and they discuss with each other about what each of them has been up to since they separated. Once the fleets are ready, they fly off into hyperspace. Rey speaks of Lando and he tells her about how he was friends of Han and regrets not being there for him, but now he has the chance to avenge his friend. The next scene is back with Luke and the Netherworld of the Force. We can see Yoda, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Kit Fisto, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Mace Windu, and Shaak Ti are surrounding Luke. Luke asks them if any of them know where his father is, however, they are unsure. They begin their ritual by extending their hands towards Luke, and a bright energy starts to be emitted from Luke. Luke starts to scream in pain, and Yoda tells the Jedi Masters to not let up, no matter how much pain he is in. The energy starts to grow even brighter as suspenseful music starts to build up. The scene changes to the Resistance coming out of hyperspace into the Ambria system. They can see the Republic blockade defending the planet has been mostly destroyed. They make their way to the planet's surface and engage in battle with the First Order. Finn is on the surface with Rey, and Poe and Rose are in starships fighting off First Order ships in the sky. Rey begins to fight against First Order troops with ease, and Finn is again using his chain gun to shoot several enemies. "Hurry, we need to find Plagueis," Rey says. The scene changes back to Luke. As he screams louder, Yoda tells him to hang on a little longer. Eventually, the screen flashes with light. We start to hear waves of the ocean. Luke's face is shown with his eyes closed, and he opens them slowly. His vision is blurry at first, but becomes clear. He discovers he is in the exact same spot he was in when he faded away on Ahch-To. The Jedi Step soundtrack from The Force Awakens begins to play. Luke looks down at his right hand and notices it is no longer a cybernetic hand, but his original hand. Luke begins to walk down the mountain. He sees his X-Wing, still submerged underwater. A camera shot inside the X-Wing's cockpit underwater shows Luke's green lightsaber hilt is inside of it. Luke then extends his hand out. The original Force Suite soundtrack starts playing. The X-Wing is lifted from the water, and Luke is shown with a determined expression. The scene changes back to the battle on Ambria. We see Kylo begin to eliminate Resistance fighters in his path, and then he sees Rey in the distance. Finn notices Kylo as well, and shouts, "Rey, look out!" Finn begins shooting at Kylo, and Kylo is able to block the shots from Finn's weapon with the Force. Rey shouts, "Hang on, Finn!" Rey starts to run towards Kylo, however, she is blocked by a couple of Knights of Ren in her path, and they begin to attack her. Poe, Lando, and Rose are struggling to keep the First Order at bay in the sky as several more ships start to pour in. Finn joins a few Republic fighters, and they try to help him fight off Kylo and a few Knights of Ren. However, they get surrounded by First Order troops and they order them to lay down their weapons. Finn and the Republic fighters go into their surrender positions, while First Order troops aim their weapons at them. Rey is shown to be struggling against the Knights of Ren. Another Knight of Ren, called the Sniper, is on a tall pillar watching Rey. The Sniper aims his gun at Rey and is able to shoot at her leg, which skids right across her skin, barely hitting her in the leg directly. This catches her off guard, and the heavy Knight of Ren strikes at Rey, and Rey's left arm is cut off. She collapses to the ground due to the pain. We then see Rey's eyes open and she is being held captive by a couple Knights of Ren. She looks out and she sees Plagueis executing resistance fighters with his darksaber, and Finn is soon to be next. While watching this, Kylo's lightsaber ignites and holds it close to Rey's face. Rey looks to be accepting death and closes her eyes. Kylo raises his lightsaber, preparing to kill her. But suddenly, we see a fist punch the ground, which causes a powerful force shockwave that knocks back Kylo and the Knights of Ren, holding Rey captive. Plagueis turns around and looks shocked. The camera pans around, and it is revealed to be Luke Skywalker. He removes his hood, and he uses the Force to pull his green lightsaber back into his hand. He ignites it and charges towards Plagueis. Luke leaps over a rock, and while in the air, he kills a Knight of Ren in one hand with his lightsaber, and pushes another Knight of Ren with the Force in his other hand in slow motion. Luke moves forward, and in another slow motion shot, he blocks attacks from two Knights of Ren at once, and then plunges his lightsaber back towards them so both of them are killed as well. Luke then rushes towards Plagueis, and they engage in a saber fight. Eventually, Snoke will thrust his darksaber on Luke's lightsaber, and they are stuck on a saber clash. Luke uses the Force to pull a nearby rock pillar, and it falls down towards them. Plagueis and Luke jump out of the way before it lands. They engage in a fight again, with each of them appearing to be equally matched. Eventually, a First Order ship is shot down and starts falling towards where Luke and Plagueis are. They jump out of the way before it crashes and explodes. However, the force from the explosion knocks them each back from each other. Luke and Plagueis then extend their hands out at each other and attempt to force push one another. Both of them fight back. Plagueis gets up and says, "This scuffle is pointless. We already have what we need." Plagueis then orders the First Order to return to orbit and fly off into hyperspace. Luke runs over to Rey, who is unconscious. Finn sees Luke and is stunned to see him alive. Luke tells Finn they have little time and must get Rey medical attention as soon as possible. Finn radios Rose to land a freighter ship, and Luke carries Rey onto it. The remaining Resistance and Republic ships go back into orbit and fly off into hyperspace. The scene changes to show the Resistance flying back to Mandalore. Luke carries Rey to a medical station and doctors begin to help her. Afterwards, Luke meets with Lando and they discuss the recent events. Lando also asks how Luke is alive, and Luke says, "Well, it's complicated." Lando says, "Regardless of the circumstances, I'm just glad you're back." Lando and Luke catch up a bit more. Later on, Luke meets with Finn, Poe, and the others and tells them what happened. He also explained how he was able to come back to life, but only temporarily. Eventually, Rey wakes up and she notices she now has a cybernetic left arm. Everyone goes to her to see how she is feeling. Rey notices Luke and is surprised to see him alive, but is glad he is back. Luke tells her the events that took place on Ambria, and he also informs everyone about Plagueis' plan to use an ancient Sith artifact to bring all dead Sith Lords back to life. Lando informs everyone that all of his allies are almost ready, and asks Luke where they will need to be sent. Luke tells him that Plagueis is heading to the center of the galaxy. Lando says this is impossible, as there is nothing but black holes and exploding suns there. Luke tells Lando he is very certain that this is where Plagueis is headed, and that they must stop him at all costs. The scene changes to show a First Order fleet docking at a station that is located at the center of the galaxy. Plagueis tells everyone that he successfully has the Sith artifact, but it will take time to be used for his intended plan. Plagueis then hosts a speech and begins talking to the First Order about how the galaxy will soon be theirs and all opposing forces will cease to exist soon enough. Kylo wanders off on his own to gather his thoughts. As he is walking down a hallway, he hears a voice call him. "Ben," the voice says. Kylo quickly turns around, but sees nothing. The voice again calls, "Ben." Kylo starts to follow the voice. Eventually, he finds where the voice was coming from. Who are you?" Kylo asks. "My name is Anakin Skywalker." Anakin's Force goes to show. Kylo drops to his knees, "Grandfather," he pleads. Kylo asks for Anakin's forgiveness as Kylo failed to call to the light, but wants to remain in the darkness. Anakin begins to explain to Kylo about his time as a Jedi, what led him to become a Sith, and his redemption. Kylo is first confused by this as he believed his grandfather was only known as Darth Vader, despite what the Sith Lords on Korriban previously told him. However, Anakin tells him that only a few people know that Anakin ended up saving his son by killing the Emperor and restored balance to the Force. Kylo at first does not believe him. However, Anakin shows Kylo visions of this. After seeing how Anakin turned back to the light side, Kylo gets furious. "Everything I know is a lie. You're nothing but a failed leader. I will finish what you were supposed to." Kylo starts to walk away, but Anakin tells him, "I know if you look deep within yourself, you will find the way back to the light, just as I have." Kylo screams, turns on his lightsaber and charges towards Anakin's ghost. However, he notices he is not there anymore. Kylo turns off his lightsaber and walks away. He looks out a window where he sees Plagueis giving a speech to the First Order. From this, we see a sad expression on Kylo's face. Later on, Plagueis commands a legion of First Order troops attack the capital in Coruscant. He tells them they can keep the Republic's eye fixed on saving the capital, instead of trying to fight them here in the center of the galaxy. A large fleet of First Order ships fly out into hyperspace towards Coruscant, and the remainder of the First Order fleet remains in the center of the galaxy with Plagueis and Kylo Ren. Plagueis informs Kylo Ren that the mass shuttle generator will take a while to fully be operational, hours even. However, the artifact is still intact, and Plagueis starts to operate on it. The scene changes back to the Resistance on Mandalore. After discussing their best approach to attack the First Order, Lando tells everyone to get some sleep before they leave as he believes this will be their biggest fight yet. Later on, Finn meets with Rey to check on her. Finn tells Rey how worried he was and felt powerless when she was about to be killed. They talk a bit more, and they have a romance scene together. The screen changes to show Luke overlooking the Mandalorian capital on a balcony. He hears something behind him and turns around. He sees the ghost of Anakin. "Father," Luke says. Luke asks Anakin where he was when the ritual was being performed on him. Anakin explains to Luke that he tried to convince Kylo to come back to the light, but it is not as easy as he thought, as Kylo is strong with the dark side. Anakin then tells Luke to never give up on Kylo, just as Luke never gave up on him. They talk with each other for a bit longer, such as Luke telling Anakin about his experience during the trials and his fight on Ambria. Anakin eventually tells Luke that he and Rey are the galaxy's last hope, and he believes that they will right the wrongs that he did. Anakin tells Luke that he loves him and fades away. The scene changes to a later time, and we see First Order ships come out of hyperspace led by General Hux and begin to attack Coruscant. Republic members in the capital contact Mandalore. Back on Mandalore, a Resistance member runs up to Lando and tells him that Coruscant is under attack. Lando gathers everyone, and he tells them about what's happening. He says he will take half of his army to assist Coruscant, and Luke can take the other half to the center of the galaxy. Finn, Poe, Rose, Chewbacca, and Lando go to Coruscant, and Luke and Rey go to the center of the galaxy. Everyone departs into hyperspace. We first go to the battle on Coruscant, and the Republic is not faring well against the First Order. Eventually, the Resistance comes out of hyperspace. We see the Millennium Falcon leading them, with Lando and Chewbacca piloting the ship. The fleet flies down towards Coruscant and begins to fight back against the First Order in a large-scale aerial battle. The scene changes to show Plagueis working on the Sith artifact, and he begins to emulate a strange energy. Kylo runs up to Plagueis and tells him that enemy fighters are detected on their scans, and Plagueis simply replies with, "Finally." We then see the Resistance fleet come out of hyperspace, and they immediately notice the area is completely surrounded by debris due to ships being destroyed from the hazardous environment. Resistance ships maneuver around the debris, and then Luke and Rey eventually make it to the center station. Luke and Rey engage in combat with First Order soldiers, and they also fight off a few Knights of Ren. Eventually, Luke sees Plagueis in the distance. He tells Rey to find Kylo and he will go after Plagueis. At first, Rey tells Luke that he will get himself killed and they have a better chance if they fight him together. Luke tells Rey that he is far too powerful and that Plagueis is his responsibility. They split paths and Rey eventually encounters Kylo Ren. Rey tells Kylo that she's not giving up on him, and Kylo tells her it's too late as he feels closer to the dark side than he ever has. Afterward, they engage in a lightsaber fight. Luke then gets to Plagueis and tells him to stop at once. Plagueis laughs and tells Luke how it's futile to fight him. Luke and Plagueis engage in an epic lightsaber fight, while also using all their force powers against each other. We cut back to Coruscant and the battle is not going well for the Resistance. The First Order greatly outnumbers them. It will not be long until they are completely overrun. They also notice the First Order has a giant bomber ship, which intends to destroy the Jedi Temple and the Senate buildings. Lando orders his fighters to attack the bomber, but they are far too overwhelmed to help. We then cut back to Luke and Plagueis' fight. Luke appears to be holding his own, but then Plagueis hits him with a powerful force push. After Luke is knocked back, Plagueis looks upward and sees a First Order destroyer ship. Plagueis uses the Force to grab hold of the ship and launches it towards Luke. Luke quickly runs out of the way. The ship demolishes a large amount of the station they are on. Luke is then shown to be badly injured as he barely escaped. Plagueis laughs and goes to attack Luke again. We cut back to Rey and Kylo fighting each other. During their fight, Kylo yells at Rey how she should have joined him earlier as he believes he is on the winning side. Rey tells Kylo it's not too late, and he can help her and Luke defeat Plagueis together. Kylo refuses and relentlessly attacks Rey. He eventually knocks her down, and a couple Knights of Ren walk next to Kylo. The Knights of Ren attack Rey, and one taunts her saying how he'll cut off her other arm and then her head. They eventually overwhelm her and pin her against a wall. Kylo holds his lightsaber up to Rey's neck and tells her about how Anakin recently tried to persuade Kylo to come back to the light and failed. He says that Anakin was a failed leader and Kylo is the only Skywalker left. Rey tells him this is not technically true, as she too is a Skywalker. Kylo asks what she means, and Rey tells Kylo that she knows he lied to her about her parents, and then she tells Kylo that she is Anakin reincarnated. Kylo appears to be shocked by this at first, but is then in denial. As he is about to strike Rey down, Kylo's surroundings appear to disappear. He is confused by this, and sees nothing but an empty void. He then sees Leia as a Force ghost. Mother? Ben asks. Leia tells Ben to let go of his hate and bring peace to the galaxy. Leia also tells Ben that despite all he's done, she will always love him. Ben is confused by this and asks Leia why she still cares about him. Leia says, "Because you're my son, and I know that in the end, you'll do the right thing." Leia fades away and Ben's surroundings return. He looks at Rey with a distressed expression and pauses. The Knights of Ren move in to attack Rey. However, Ben blocks their attacks just before they strike. Ben uses the Force to return Rey's lightsaber back to her, and together they fight the last of the Knights of Ren. The scene cuts back to Coruscant. One of the Republic captains calls Lando and insists that they retreat. Lando tells him they don't have any choice, and they can't allow the First Order to destroy the capital. The large First Order bomber ship, being helmed by General Hux, orders the pilots to prepare the ship for bombardment. More Resistance ships and soldiers are destroyed, and sad music plays. Hope seems lost for the Resistance. But then, one of the captains in the First Order bomber tell General Hux they detect a large movement incoming. Hux asks the captain who it is, and they are unsure. Lando notices something in the far distance, and much to his surprise, he sees a large fleet flying Republic flags. He tells everyone that more systems across the galaxy have come to help. The fleet of Republic ships begin to attack the First Order. This angers Hux, and he orders the pilots to press their target on the capital. Despite the reinforcements, the large bomber gets close to the capital, and the cannons below the bomber are shown to be getting ready to fire. We then see Poe in a Z-Wing, and he tells BB-8 to take the wheel. Poe jumps out of the Z-Wing and onto the bomber ship itself. Poe takes out thermal detonators from his belt and throws a few onto the bomber's wing. He takes a few more thermal detonators and throws them onto other vital points. He then jumps off the bomber, and a wing explodes off of it, sending it flying sideways. BB-8 catches Poe in the Z-Wing, and Poe flies away from the bomber. The bomber flies off course from the capital and starts descending towards the surface. A shot of General Hux is shown, and he closes his eyes. The bomber crashes into the ground, creating a massive explosion. The scene changes back to Luke fighting Plagueis. After they fight for a bit, they engage in a saber clash. After trying to overpower one another, they end up knocking both of their sabers away from their grasp. They then try to use the force push against each other, and both of them are knocked back. Luke struggles to get up, and he notices the Sith artifact is emulating more energy than ever before. Plagueis laughs and says the future of the galaxy is nearly here. We cut back to Rey and Ben fighting the Knights of Ren. After an intense battle, they manage to eliminate most of the Knights. However, one of them knocks Rey down and pins her with electrical knives. Rey starts to scream in pain, and she sees a Knight of Ren charge towards her. Ben uses the Force to stop the Knight in place, but then another Knight of Ren stabs Ben with the lightsaber. Rey screams "No!" and pulls herself back up. She kills the Knight that pinned her down, and starts to attack the Knight that stabbed Ben. After an intense duel, Rey manages to stab the Knight. The Knight starts to scream and they grab hold of the lightsaber Rey is using, and pulls it towards them. Rey sees they are holding a knife to stab her with, so she quickly pulls the lightsaber out from them and slashes their head off. She then runs over to Ben and kneels next to him. We go back to Luke and Plagueis. Plagueis continues to taunt Luke, saying how it is pointless to stop the artifact now, and soon the galaxy will be his. Luke starts to crawl, and then manages to get to his feet. Plagueis charges up massive amounts of force energy, which include force lightning and force waves. He then launches his force energy at Luke, and Luke uses the force to hold his energy back. Luke is struggling to hold this immense power at bay, and begins to slide back. He tries his very best to push this incredible power back as much as possible, but appears to prove too difficult for Luke. Just as when he is about to give up, Luke notices the ghost of Anakin appear. "Father," Luke says, "his power is too great. I can't stop it alone." Anakin then smiles and stands next to Luke. "My son," Anakin says, "you are never alone." Anakin places his hand next to Luke's and says, "Now, with me, give it everything you've got." Luke then uses all his might to push back Plagueis' power. He begins to slowly walk towards the Dark Lord, and with all the power of the Skywalker family, Luke forces the dark energy back towards Plagueis and knocks him off the station. The Sith artifact is also destroyed. We see Plagueis falling towards the abyss, screaming in pain. His body begins to fade away in ashes, indicating that Luke successfully destroyed Dark Plagueis for good. We return to Rey and Ben. Rey tells Ben that everything will be fine, and she's going to do whatever it takes to take care of him. Ben tells Rey this is what he wanted, and he'll be with his family soon enough. Rey then tells Ben, "But I'm just one Jedi. I can't help the galaxy alone." Ben replies, "No, you're not a Jedi. You can be something more, something greater. You can create a new order, one that is neither Jedi nor Sith. You can be the balance. Thank you, Rey." Ben then takes his last breath and dies. Rey starts to cry. We cut back to the battle in Coruscant. Suddenly, everyone notices the First Order stops attacking and surrenders. Lando tells everyone that the battle is won, and the Resistance cheers. The scene changes to Luke and he runs over to Rey. He tells Luke that she needs to leave as the station is going to be destroyed any second. Rey asks Luke what he will do, and he says it is time for him to return to the netherworld of the Force. He also tells her that he will always be with her. Rey starts to enter in her ship, and she turns around. She says to Luke, "May the Force be with you, Master Skywalker." Luke replies, "May the Force be with you too, Rey, always." Rey enters the ship and it flies off. Luke looks off into the distance and he sees two suns similar to the ones he saw in Tatooine and Ahch-To. Luke smiles and his body fades away into the Force. The station is then destroyed. The scene changes to show Rey joining everyone on Mandalore. Rey hugs Finn and greets the others. Various shots of different planets across the galaxy are shown to be celebrating the Republic's victory. We then transition to the future, where Rey is grown up to having children with Finn, and a new Force Academy is open on Coruscant. Rey is shown to be working on a computer inside the academy. Finn walks in with their children, and he tells Rey it's time to give her speech. They walk outside and they see a large crowd of people. They cheer as Rey walks outside. She is also joined by Poe, Rose, Lando, Chewbacca, R2-D2, C-3PO, BB-8, and several Resistance members. Rey gives a speech about how a new era of the Force has begun, and how she plans to train a new generation of those gifted with the Force. She explains it is time to depart from the ways of both the Jedi and the Sith, so as to not to repeat the mistakes they made and maintain the balance in the galaxy. After she is done with her speech, we see the ghosts of Anakin, Luke, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Leia, and Ben Solo standing next to them. The crowd starts to cheer. We are then given a camera panning shot of the entire cast. From this image, the screen fades and the end credits roll. Well, I hope you all enjoyed my episode 9 fanfiction. This took a very long time to make, so please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing if you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback or criticism, please feel free to share in the comments below. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and may the Force be with you.